Hello and welcome to Dish Shelf with Adam White. Today I'm going to talk about the first omnibus of Whisper by Stephen Grant, Rich Larson, and Norm Breyfogle. I'll read you what it says on the back here. The critically acclaimed series by Stephen Grant is finally being collected for the first time in remastered omnibus editions. Alexis Devon was trained in the martial arts by her Japanese stepfather to make her healthy, and it saved her when she became a target. She thought putting on a mask would make her a superhero, but she's about to learn that while the world needs heroes, they aren't the kind you see in the comic books. And that's a very short description of what this comic is about. It nice thick paperback. Uh, it it is really ahead of its time for a lot of reasons, but the one thing they said that it's not like a superhero you read in the comics, which is true because she's not much of a superhero. She does put on a costume from time to time, but it shows kind of how ridiculous the idea of being able to keep a secret identity is, and just she's in as much trouble and has as many problems as she causes for other people. And Alexis Devon, she goes to Japan in the beginning to see her stepfather, who she hasn't seen for like 10 years. And because her mother was dead and her father had died in a car wreck before her mother married her stepfather. And she ends up in just a mess with the Yakuza, and it just, you have to read it to get where it's going. But it she ends up putting on this costume that she kind of makes from what she's got around so that she can get away and have them not know it was her. And then she gets into a mess with her stepfather and with the Yakuza, and then a government agency in the U.S. gets involved heavily, and it just it spirals from there for her. Uh, it's a really good story. I found it to be a little bit slow at the very beginning, but you were really just getting introduced to everybody. So I mean, I can understand that. And another thing is her, and she has a roommate named Lisa who looks a lot like her, and they'd wear the same hairstyles a lot, so I got confused sometimes on which was which of her. Uh, uh, Rich Larson's artwork was really good. Um, I mean, it kind of looks 80s ish, but um, he did a good job, and I really enjoyed his artwork. But it just, there was times when I had trouble telling certain characters from other characters. So I hate to be that way, but I just sometimes I did. But uh, really, all in all, it was pretty good. And the story goes along at a slower pace to start with, but then it picks up, and then it goes at full speed. And it really tells an engaging story about this Alexis Devon and what she gets herself into. Now, it's also a book about obsession. And I know all about obsession because I'm extremely OCD and I know how it can run your life, but this kind of obsession in this book makes me look normal. Uh, um, the government, this main government agent who is kind of after her, is obsessed, And there's another character that's like the daughter of her boss, and she's obsessed with different things than what the government agent is, Eckhart. And the main character is kind of obsessed too, but they all have very different obsessions. And it really delves deep into what obsession does to you and how it can hurt yourself and other people, and why it's not a good thing. But it really goes into a lot of about obsession in this story arc that's done in the first omnibus. Uh, also, uh, it also is way ahead of its time because it talks about computer piracy and like computer viruses. And you got to remember, this was the early 80s when this came out. And computer viruses and how you could get into people's computers and find out all their information and spread it to the media. And lots of stuff in this book gets out that the government doesn't want to get out. And it dealt with, you know, an early form of internet espionage. And of course, they talked about telephone modems and stuff like that because that's what they had back then. But it really was ahead of its time in that, because it really predicted a lot of what can go on nowadays that you just think of as kind of standard government computer espionage. But it was really prescient in that way, and really had a lot of interesting things to say about the danger of computers. Um, anyway, it all comes to a head, and all the stories that are going on in this first volume get wrapped up by the end of this volume, which I was very glad, because there's 2 more volumes, and I was afraid it was just going to end and make you want the next one. But um, it resolves all of its issues and all of its character arcs for this first omnibus. And it really is a satisfying ending to the way that the story has gone. Now, also later on in the book, the art is the artist is replaced with Norm Brayfogle, and he is a really good artist. And he did a lot of stuff like Prime for Malibu, and his main claim to fame, this was like one of the first things he did, and his main claim to fame is Batman and Detective Comics. And you can get 2 volumes of his work on Batman. One of them I think is still in print, but otherwise you can get both of them on your Kindle. Read it on your iPad. That's what I do. I've got both of those, and I'm eager to go back over those, because I remember I was buying Batman back when he was doing Batman and Detective, and his art is just really excellent. So I didn't even read the cover of who all the artists were, so it was a surprise when I saw his name when I went through the book. And but Norm Brayfogle was a really good artist, and we lost him back in 2018. He had some health issues, and it was really sad because I mean, just because he was a person, um, but it was really sad because he was such a talented artist, and he gave so much to the comic industry, and it was a shame to lose him. Um, but this was some of his first continuing work, and I believe does the art in the beginning of the next volume of Omnibus number 2 as well. Like I said, there's an Omnibus 2 and 3. I don't have them yet. They're a little pricey. As soon as I can scrounge up enough money, I'm going to get them though, because I really enjoyed this. And like I said, it takes you a little bit to get into it, but then you start seeing all this stuff, especially his work with Obsession and what it does to people, and all the computer stuff, and it really draws you in, and you're like, wow, this is really, you didn't expect to see this in the early 80s. It really went places that other comic books didn't go. So it really was really was ahead of its time, and I really enjoyed it. Again, it's Whisper Omnibus Volume 1. They're all in print, so you can get them, and I highly recommend it. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. Stephen Grant wrote an engaging story. He did other things, like he kind of popularized the Punisher when he first started having a miniseries in the mid '80s, and so he's done a lot of comic writing too, and he just told a really engaging story. And like I said, Rich Larson's art was good, and then it got even better with Norm Brayfogle. And check this out; it's really worth your time. I My last video I talked about reading a book about comics in the '80s, the American Comic Book Chronicles, and I talked a lot about the '80s and that, and so I'm reading a lot of '80s comics right now, and I'll probably be talking about them for the foreseeable future because I'm just really into seeing what all was going on during then. But Whisper, really good. Definitely check it out. It's I think its entirety is available in the 3 volumes of the omnibus editions. So check it out. And thanks for hanging out with me. And I hope to see you sooner than later.